All right. Looks like the live stream's working. I'm going to jump right in. I've got a little bit of stuff going on in my throat, mostly because I just woke up. Yeah. Anyway, it's been kind of an interesting week this week. And I'm gonna, I don't know, I've kind of gone back and forth on what the show is going to be, and I think I figured it out. And I think I needed everything that happened this week to figure it out. And so anyway, initially when I conceived of the Dev Rev, it was about helping people find freedom. And I thought that by focusing on some of the career issues that people run into, right, that I could talk people around it and they'll wind up in better jobs and better situations. They'll be happier with where they're at. And, you know, maybe someone will go freelance or something, and you know, they'll have more freedom. And so, you know, the Dev Rev was the developer revolution. And this last week, I mean, some things went down. I think there are probably a few people that have been following some of it. You know, I came under some fire on Twitter. I'm not going to rehash it. It was funny because I was going to come back on Twitter today, and I was basically going to rehash it and prove that I was right. And instead, just because of the way the weekend went, I realized that I'm coming back and I'm going to talk about the fact that I have stuff to learn. It's not so much that I'm justifying what anybody did, myself included, but mostly just that what I really deeply care about is helping people. And, you know, a lot of it wasn't fun. A lot of it wasn't very nice. But at the same time, yeah, I've really been thinking about it. So I guess I am going to recap what kind of went on. But I'm not going to do it and point fingers. I'm just going to kind of talk through it. So it was just interesting, you know, that so Amy Knight came on Twitter and said something that was taken the wrong way, and because I talked to her, and you know, the way it was taken was not how she meant it. And so another friend of mine, John Sonmez, jumped up and tried to protect her by going and doing personal attacks. And I jumped in and I tried to just, you know, get everybody to slow down and have a conversation. And I kind of went around about that kind of the wrong way, but I didn't realize that until after I'd done it, and I had gotten some reactions to it. And yeah, people had been going at me. I think this all went down on Wednesday. It's Monday now. And yeah, so it kind of went over the weekend. I had a trip planned though to come here to Nashville. And I wound up spending a bunch of time with a bunch of guys that I talk to every week about life. So, you know, it was a planned retreat or live event kind of thing. And we had people coming in and talking about human connections. And we had another guy come and talk to us about getting on stages and getting our message out. And this will all tie together in a minute, I promise. And then another friend of mine who's part of this. So one friend of mine got up and he kind of gave the talk about personal connection, and really made me think about where I was going with my family and with people that I know and people that I'm connecting to online and things like that. And then this other guy got up and, yeah, like I said, he talked about the stage, and he talked about kind of the signature talk, right? So what's your signature talk? What's that core idea that you're chasing all the time, right? That you could talk about. And you go and you get on stage and you talk about this signature talk. And he gave us a format for it, which involves a lot of heart. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, what is my signature talk, right? Because it's definitely not the fighting people about diversity, right? And I never really want to be the poster child for any of that stuff, right? I may be forced into some of that at some different times, depending on what I do, what I choose to do, and what other people choose to do. But really, what's that core message, right? What's that thing that is that signature talk for me? And I realized that honestly, it really is that, not developer freedom, but just kind of that, like having that community where we encourage each other and help each other. And, sometimes encouraging each other and helping each other is calling each other out on our crap. I mean, that's what these guys do for me. And recognizing that we're not perfect. And I had a conversation with them, and I got called out on some of my own crap, and realized that I actually need to go talk to somebody about it. And it's not, there's not debilitating stuff, and it's not like horrible stuff from my past, but it's emotional garbage that I deal with that I don't need to. And I realized that I didn't need to, and I was able to own up to a lot of it, but that doesn't mean I know how to process my way past it, right? And I realized that some people wind up paying the price for that. No, it's mostly my kids, actually. Realized I wasn't being fair to them, but yeah, for developers and development communities, right? What do we learn to build these communities, And yeah, there's going to be some involvement of learning tech and keeping up on things, and all the things that we have to do for careers, because let's face it, that's what we have in common, for one. And for another, we have to be able to do that work. And so we are going to talk about tech, right? I'm not going to just ignore it for the human stuff, but a lot of times we ignore the human stuff, and a lot of times that affects our careers, right? I've talked to a number of people and talked to them about the idea of MaxCoders, and the idea is to help people build successful careers and meaningful lives. And so building successful careers means that they need to be able to make those human connections too with the people they work with, because we just don't build software in isolation very much anymore. You may get the prototype out, but even the people building prototypes, typically there's more than one developer behind it. And, sometimes it's reasonably simple and you can do it on your own. But you look at the systems that are out there that people are really trying to build, and yeah, eventually they wind up building a team around it because they need it. The other thing is you have to be able to work with the non-technical people in the company, right? So you're probably getting some product direction from a CEO or somebody like that. You're probably also getting product direction from other people in the system, the salespeople and the support people and things like that. You have to be able to work with them, or you're going to make things a lot harder on yourself and others. And so I feel like talking about these skills, the skills that you need to have at work, to organize your work, to work with other people, things like that, is also really, really important. And so I want to talk about all these things, right? But the heart was missing, I guess. So, what is the heart, right? Where is that? And for me, it was just realizing that I'm on my own journey, right? And yeah, I've got a bunch of people around me that, that push me one way or the other, but it's still my journey. And, what does your journey look like? What does the person sitting next to you, what does their journey look like? And when we get down to that, yeah, some of the things are going to be a common, right? So I can talk about a general idea and it'll help both of you. But sometimes it's going to be one-on-one stuff. And, what does that journey look like? And how do we help you move ahead with that journey? And that's what I want to talk about on this show. I want to talk about that journey. I want to talk about how we become the kind of people that we want to be. And I'm going to do that through the lens of a development career. And so going back again, right, to these people on Twitter, I'll admit that last week I was really, really, really angry. And a lot of it really just came down to this isn't fair, right? And as I talked to these guys and started to recognize my own problems, I realized that, the people that are coming after me on Twitter have their own journey. They have their own story, right? And as much as I felt like it wasn't fair because they were coming after me for things that they didn't agree with that I said, the reality is that they have a story too, and there's probably something that they've seen or done or gone through that I don't understand, right? And so, they're making assumptions about me based on things that I guess they see, but nobody took the time to actually sit down and find out why with me or with Amy. I mean, if John's punching you in the face, I don't really expect you to ask him why he's punching you in the face. You walk away from that. That's fine. But, I think people miss an opportunity to learn. And I think I missed an opportunity to learn. Now, thankfully, I didn't take it out on anybody, at least not that I'm aware of. And if I did, I apologize. But, I had a few people actually reach out on Twitter. And, the majority of the responses were, we don't have to talk to you, or we're not going to talk to you, or, you can't tell us how we have to talk to you. And, I suppose that's probably all true in the sense that I can't control what anybody else does. And I don't want that responsibility anyway, to be honest. But I did have a couple people, come to me and say, hey, look, you asked for DMs, or direct messages on Twitter for the uninitiated, or people who don't use Twitter anymore. You open up your direct messages, you said that we could talk. And so, here's your direct message. Let's line up a time to talk. So I'm talking to somebody on Friday. I had somebody else basically say, here's your DM. And so, but they haven't, we haven't been able to line up a specific time. I told them when I was free, but I haven't heard back. So hopefully that works out too. But yeah, it's how do we break through these barriers that are holding us back, right? I mean, I want to break through barriers for other people. And I feel like the best way to do that is mostly one-on-one, right? So what are you going through? Why is it hard? Okay, well, let's explore that, figure it out, and then, climb the mountain, conquer it. So how do we do that? And I realized that, with all the people that I've talked to, we've recorded thousands of podcast episodes. I personally have recorded over 1,000 podcast episodes, and I've talked to a whole bunch of people at conferences offline, conversations that will never be captured because they're, they already happened. And, I've talked to people about diversity, about these particular issues, and I'd never had anybody, come and act the way that these folks acted. And that's what I figured out, was that at the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is obviously there's something there I don't understand, right? And so I need to suck it up. I need to be humble, and I need to recognize that there's something there for me to learn. Now, a lot of people weren't willing to come and talk to me. A lot of people told me to go follow more people on Twitter and then listen. But mostly people post the same garbage on Twitter regardless of who they are. And I generally don't spend a lot of time on Twitter. My medium really is talking to people. And so, I did pick up a book that was recommended. And like I said, I'm having conversations with these people. And, just taking the opportunity to see what I missed. And so I'll ask questions, but I think I'm generally just going to get on these calls and just listen and see where people are coming from. Now I'm kind of a proud man, and when people start finger wagging or yelling at me, I don't like it. And a lot of times I'll just shut the conversation down. And it may go there and we may do that, but I'm really hoping that we can just, I can come to get to know these folks and understand where they're coming from. And that's what I want to do with the Dev Rev too, right? Is I want to understand where folks are at and then give you all the tools that you need to navigate some of this stuff, and not just the diversity stuff, or, I mean, there are other activists in tech, how to navigate, talking to them. It's much more in the vein of, somebody had this problem getting a raise, or somebody had a problem getting along with a coworker, or somebody got attacked on Twitter, or and yeah, I don't love the word attacked for what goes on Twitter, because I was never in any real danger, right? But yeah, how do you deal with that? How do you continue on your journey to become the kind of person you want to be? And ultimately, I'll probably take a few more arrows. Not everybody likes everything that I have to say. Not everybody likes everything you're going to have to say. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is, how are you going to move forward? What kind of a positive difference are you going to make? How are you going to use your stage, I guess, to go back to what I was learning about this weekend, to influence people. And it was interesting too, because he listed 7 stages, and one of them was like conferences, or webinars, or going and speaking at associations, but the last one was one-on-one. And I find that a lot of times that's where the impact is, right? And so, going out and generally demonizing a particular group of people isn't effective. But if I can get in front of somebody one-on-one, and sometimes you don't even have to say anything, but just the fact that you're there and willing to listen is what pushes through a lot of this stuff. So I'm probably done, fighting over whether what happened was fair, because I think it just charges people up and it doesn't actually solve any of these issues. And instead, I'm really going to focus on, as much as I can, one person at a time. And at the same time, I'll put stuff out there for everybody else as much as I can. And we'll see what we can do to help move people forward. And if folks want to join me and help be part of the solution to some of this stuff, welcome aboard. And if you want to come on and help other people move forward, then welcome aboard. And whether people are dealing with things because of how they look, or they're dealing with things because they've got garbage in their head that they've got to figure out, or whether they're stuck because they can't figure out a technical concept, I mean, let's go help them. Let's go move them up, right? And see people for people. And that's where this weekend went. And it's, I'm one of those people. I believe in God. I don't believe things don't happen for no reason. And I'm kind of grateful that things went down on Twitter the way that they did, and that I was able to go and talk about some of it with my friends, and then talk about some of the personal stuff that I'm going through with my friends. And trust me, there's a big pile of that. A lot of it's my fault. Nothing serious. My marriage is fine. My kids are fine. Nobody's in the hospital or, anything serious. But, it's, I did realize that I've been punishing some of my kids for some of my own head trash for a couple of years, and you know, I'm going to get help with that. But you know, I'm in a position where I am going to go do that. But you know, then how can I do that for you, right? And that doesn't mean that I'm going to, you know, sit you down and talk about, you know, your deep emotional issues that I have no qualifications or understanding to help you with. But you know, I can help you feel like it's not unsurmountable. I can help you find somebody to help you figure out that stuff, even though I can't. You know, I can be your friend. Sometimes that goes a long way. And you know, I don't know that everybody involved in this whole mess on Twitter or any of the other, you know, things that have gone on are necessarily going to want to be my friend or will let me help them. And I understand that. I'm, you know, but if they need it, I'm there. And, you know, I don't have any hard feelings at this point. But what I really hope comes through is that if you, specifically you, listening to this right now, you need help, then if I can, I will. Some people are blown away by this, but I do it because I want to help people. If you go to devchat.tv/15minutes, that's devchat.tv/15 minutes. It'll take you to a scheduling page. You can schedule a 15-minute call with me. About half of those wind up going for at least a half hour. It just depends on what else I have scheduled that day at that time. But I mean, I've helped people figure out how to negotiate a raise. I've helped people figure out that, you know, and it wasn't me talking them into it, but just talking through things. They realized that the job they were in was not working for them. I've helped people get the confidence to submit to conferences. I help people get the confidence to start a podcast, and you know, I'm happy to do it for you too. And that's where things are at. So, you know, and this is going to get a little bit into the religion, but you know, this is what Jesus did, and that's, you know, he went and taught big sermons that helped people, and then he reached out and touched individuals and helped them heal, or healed them in his case. You know, and I think sometimes I can do the one, and most of the time I can only do the other. But you know, that's what this is about. So, you know, anyway, that's kind of where my head's been at and my heart's been at this weekend. And you know, I think I needed to get you know, pushed under the water a little bit so that I could figure out when I came back up what I wanted to do. And yeah, you know, during the retreat, I barely looked at my phone. I looked at my phone to call my kids, my wife. You know, and other than that, I was just all in on the event. One other thing that happened, and this is another, I guess, example of this, is that so Saturday, so the group that I'm in, we talk about business and, you know, family and work and life and stuff. And one of the prerequisites to be in the group is to be Christian, to believe in Jesus. And the group has a very, very heavy Baptist leaning. And I'm not Baptist. I'm, you know, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So, you know, and I'm not criticizing them. You know, we mostly believe the same thing, but you know, some of the traditions and the way that they talk about things is just different from what I'm accustomed to. And so, anyway, I've been in this group in total about 2 years, and you know, so the worship stuff, you know, it just, it didn't feel as natural to me because it's not the way I grew up. And anyway, about 6 months ago, there was another guy that joined the group that's of my faith. And I'm giving way too much preamble to this. Anyway, on Saturday, he came to me and he said, Chuck, I'm going to go to church tomorrow. Do you want to come with me? And usually when I travel, especially for these kinds of things, I knew they were going to do a devotional and, essentially have church, right, at the event. And so I was like, no, I think I'm just going to stay here for this stuff. And I walked about 5 steps away, and I knew that wasn't the way that I was supposed to do it. So I went back and I said, you know what? I'll go with you. And, I've gone to a bunch of conferences this year, and, if I was traveling on Sunday, I just didn't go to church, and sometimes I'd be in a town, right? And I still wouldn't go. And I realized that I had gotten a little bit casual with the things that I was doing in my faith. And what's funny about it is that, and this is kind of the point, I guess, to this whole thing, is that, I don't even remember what people talked about in church. We went to what we call sacrament meeting, and it's basically, where we take the sacrament or communion or whatever you call it, where you go, and members of the congregation get up and speak, and then every other week we either do a Sunday school or we do, the men get together and the women get together, and some people go teach Sunday school to the younger kids. And this week it was the men's group that was together, right? So the men were together and the women were together in another room, and so we were talking, and everything just pointed back to that, where it was, who do you want to be, and how committed are you to this, was what I was getting out of it. I know the lesson wasn't exactly about that, but that's where I got pushed. And I realized walking out of there that if he hadn't asked me, I wouldn't have gone, and I'd still be coasting. And I think it's easy to get to that place where you're coasting. And, so sometimes you need somebody to walk up and say, hey, do you want to come? And, we need to do that in the programming community too, right? Where, if we see somebody that's coasting, we think they could benefit, hey, do you want to come to users group? Hey, do you want to work on a code kata? Hey, do you want to listen to this podcast? There's this crazy guy on YouTube that I like, because you never know. And in that case, it's not kind of the right and wrong, or, the salvation conversations we have at church, but, you don't know if what you're going to bring to them is going to make a difference. And I realized that, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to be the guy that's like, hey, come on, let's communicate better with our coworkers, or, let's find a job that we're happy in, so that when we go home, we're not screaming at our wife and kids, and stuff like that. And, a lot of that, it hits close to home. I'm not a yeller, but I haven't been the most pleasant person to be around at home either, right? So, that's what this is about. That's where this show is. And so, yeah. So I'm just going to invite you to come along. I'm also working on MaxCoders. It's taking a bit longer to pull it together. I'm also trying to get this book published before Thanksgiving. But, I really want to help people, have a successful career that leads to a fulfilling life. And if I can do that for you, then I win, right? I mean, if I help 1 or 2 other people, and I put in all the time to put out a free podcast, and I pay the people to edit the podcasts, and I help a couple of people, it's totally worth it. So anyway, probably not the redux you were expecting on the whole situation on Twitter. And yeah, you know, I've had some lively discussions with people about what's going on and who's involved and why they're doing what they're doing. But at the end of the day, none of those conversations change anything. I mean, other than them not feeling alone when it comes back around and, you know, it's their turn, doesn't change anything. But, you know, if you're happier at work, if you're able to go and, I mean, even if you're happier at work and you show up at 8 and you leave at 5 and you go do something else that matters to you, you're making a difference, right? You know, go work at the homeless shelter, the food bank, or, you know, just spend time with family, or, you know, take care of a family member that needs help with life, right? For physical or mental or emotional reasons. It all matters, right? And, you know, I'm just as happy with that impact as I am with somebody writing open source software that helps people in their lives, right? That's a direct use of the skill that we all share. So that's what I'm hoping. And then I'm hoping that we can reach out and just be aware of the people around us and make a difference for them too. And you know what? Like I said, I don't have hard feelings toward any of the folks on Twitter. And, you know, if you all need me, I'll be there. For the folks that kind of backed me up and, you know, sent me messages of support, I'm there for you too, right? So if there's something that I can do that's going to make, you know, make your life better, then let me know what it is. And if I can, I will. If I can't, I'll try and help you find somebody who can. But yeah, that's pretty much it, you know. So I guess the side tangent lesson with this too is that if you're going through hard stuff, you know, don't take it personally, even if it is. Don't get mad. If you have to get mad, you know, if you have to go there to get to a healthy place, you know, move through anger to get to a healthy place, you know, whatever. But just take a beat or two and figure out, okay, what can I learn from this? And, you know, where can I improve? And then do that. Because otherwise, with some of the negativity that's out there, nothing else good is going to come out of it. So anyway, and a lot of people told me to expect a bunch of, you know, reactions to things, right? You know, when I asked them to sit down, I you know, I got a pretty violent reaction to that. Violent in the sense of like, it wasn't just no, right? And people told me to expect that, but you know what? They're people too, and they need it too. So anyway, a lot of other stuff I've been thinking about, but that's kind of the, in a nutshell, where I landed here this week. So if this helped, I'd like to know. You don't have to tell me. If you're not comfortable telling me, don't. And if you see something I need to learn, let me know. And if you need help with something, you know, devchat.tv/15 minutes. Let me give you a little bit of time, a little bit of help, a little bit of attention, and see if we can get you on the right track, or a better track, I guess is a better way to put that. So, all right, well, I'm going to sign off. I know this has been a little bit different. You know, a lot of times when I'm talking about what I'm going to do on the Dev Rev, I get all fired up and I'm yelling at my computer. But yeah, you know, that's kind of where my brain's been these days. You know, I kind of got it reconnected to my heart for where I want to go and what I want to do. So anyway, have a good one. Keep moving forward. Sometimes it's going to be hard. Let me help. Max out.